Hello, music fans. You're watching Death by Unicorn, where we talk about metal, rock, and prog music. This is new Music Picks 2026. I'm going to talk about 5 new albums that came out on February 20th, 2026, and give my quick first impressions of them. And I'll talk about them in my order of preference, starting with Abstracted and their album Hiraeth. This is the second album by this Brazilian band, and it's progressive technical death metal with thrash metal and djent influences. And this one I'm putting in my near masterpiece tier. And I'd never listened to Abstracted before until this year. I checked out the early single called Languish, which features Cheney Crab of the band Entheos, which is a band I enjoy as well. So that kind of piqued my interest and got me to check it out. And it's an intensely heavy progressive death metal track. It's well performed, well produced. So I put this on my list to check out because I always enjoy some progressive death metal. Then I checked out another early single called Axis, which is also awesome, and it's currently my favorite track on the album. It's about a 9-minute track and takes you on a journey. The whole album, and those are the first 2 tracks on the album. And then the whole album just continues the excellence of those first 2 tracks. Amazing playing from all musicians. Strong vocals, both harsh and clean vocals. Some of the guitar and bass parts on this album remind me of Cynic. So I think fans of bands like Cynic, Persephone, and The Heart Machine will like this. It's kind of like a combination of those bands. And the clean vocals actually have a bit of an emo vibe to them. To me, the vocals sound a bit like Mike Semeski, who sang on the Intervals album A Voice Within and the Heart Machines album Disclosure. That's kind of what the clean vocals sound like. But imagine combining that clean vocal style with like a post-hardcore vibe, like a Ronnie Radke, how he sounds on the debut Escape the Fate album. I would never consider this a post-hardcore band, but there's like a little bit of that hint to the clean vocals mixed in with the progressive death metal sound. And after hearing this, I immediately went back, checked out the debut album by Abstracted. And that's always a good sign when I check out an album and I immediately want to hear everything that this band has ever done. That's one of my things that I feel kind of helps me decide that something earns a near masterpiece, when I'm like immediately like I need to know everything about what they've ever made after hearing it. And their debut's a near masterpiece too. So I've got a new band here to add to my ever-growing list of favorite bands. That's Hiraeth by Abstracted. Check that out if that sounds good to you. Next up is Good Tiger with their album The Most Negative Day of the Year. This is the 4th album by this band from the UK. It's progressive rock / metal. It's not super metal. It's also not super progressive. It's kind of post-hardcore at the same time, kind of math rock, alternative rock. A little bit hard to pin down the genre here, but I guess it's a prog rock album at its core, with, you know, metal, post-hardcore, all that. And it's in my excellent tier. This is, I thought their last album, Raising a Doomsday Cult from 2020, was actually a near masterpiece. Their first 2 albums were both excellent as well. So I was really looking forward to this. I don't like this quite as much as Raised in a Doomsday Cult from 2020. That's my favorite for them. But I think it's on par, close to on par with their first 2 albums. If you're a fan of bands like Mandroid, Echo Star, Art by Numbers, The Safety Fire, Corellia, Caligula's Horse, and Earthside, I think you'll like Good Tiger. Kind of like those bands. But Good Tiger is not quite as metal as those bands I mentioned. It's like got a vibe from those bands, but a bit more of that post-hardcore, emo, swancore mixed in than those bands have. Kind of like those bands meeting up with Dance Gavin Dance, Hail the Sun, and Idola. And Good Tiger don't do very many harsh screams. I think it's all clean vocals, actually. Maybe on some of their past albums there were a couple harsh screams. So it's very much focused on melodic vocals, but there's a bit of heaviness. It's just a really cool and unique sound, and I've really been enjoying it. So check out The Most Negative Day of the Year by Good Tiger in my excellent tier. Next up, I want to mention one that surprised me and was better than I expected it would be, which is Mumford and Sons and their album Prizefighter. This is the 6th album by this band from the UK. It's folk rock with indie, alternative, pop, country, and bluegrass influences. And I'm having a hard time rating this one. I feel like it's kind of right on the border between very good and excellent. I might almost lean towards excellent. I think this might be, for me, the best Mumford and Sons album. It's close with the debut, though. I like the debut, and I really don't like many of their other albums at all. So it's really between this and the debut. Yeah, I liked Mumford and Sons' debut album, but then they kind of fell off for me, and I lost interest in them. They always put out good stuff that's catchy, but it's kind of been really boring and samey for me since their debut. And I kind of missed the magic. But when I heard the singles from this one, they're great. So I thought maybe they were going to make a comeback to quality here. And I was very pleasantly surprised by this album from Mumford and Sons. I think this is their best album, perhaps. So many of the tracks here are beautiful and catchy and emotional, and some give me goosebumps, which I really didn't expect from this band. It kind of reminded me a little bit of like Coldplay in that they're, simple, often like 3-chord, 4-chord songs, but just like the vibe and the atmosphere and the melody and the build and the arrangements is done so expertly well, and all the performances are just perfect and out of this world. So maybe, I don't know, I'm not sure if it was just the headspace that I was in when I was listening to this album by Mumford and Sons, because I don't usually fall in love with this kind of folk rock stuff. But I do believe they tapped into something here with their songwriting and melodies and arrangements that they haven't had before. And some of my favorite tracks were the banjo song, Conversations with My Son, Gangsters and Angels, Prizefighter, and Begin Again. And really, all of the songs on this album by Mumford and Sons, they're very pleasant, they're very normal. It's music that the normal masses could enjoy. Music that would work well in movies, TV shows, commercials, radio, and big music festivals. And that's not usually the kind of music that I gravitate to, but it does feel a lot deeper than what I typically associate with these big mainstream poppy folk rock bands. It's almost like Mumford and Sons has gone a bit more for the heartstrings here. They've got a bit more emotional and artsy than they've done before. Like they've been listening to bands like Bon Iver. It kind of reminded me of that too, kind of like a Bon Iver Coldplay vibe, but way more like earthy and not like get rid of all the electronics and dancey and like digital sounds of Bon Iver and Coldplay and replace it with like earthy southern country banjo, that kind of folk bluegrassy vibes. And I was a bit worried when I saw that 4 of the 4 collaboration songs were on the album. I thought those might ruin it, because sometimes when these kind of poppier, bigger bands have an album and 4 of their songs feature other mainstream artists, those songs end up sucking. I specifically think of Coldplay when I think of that. Like all their collaborative tracks, I just cringe whenever I hear them or see them. So I was a bit worried about that here, but they were all surprisingly good too. Badlands features Gracie Abrams, and it even has a 5 beats per bar beat, and it's such a great track. So maybe that's even one of my favorites. It's hard to pick a favorite track here. I still need to listen to this one again. I listened to the first 2 albums I talked about on this list twice all the way through. This one I'm still like listen 1.5. So I kind of paused my halfway through this album to make this video. So this is still kind of a quick first impression, but from what I'm hearing, I'm right on the border between very good and excellent for this one. If that sounds good to you, check out Prizefighter by Mumford and Sons. Next up, I've got Sylosis with their album The New Flesh. With This is the 7th album by this band from the UK. It's groove metal with melodic metalcore, thrash metal, and melodic death metal influences. And I'm putting this in my very good tier. And everything I've heard by Sylosis has been very good, but nothing has really blown me away yet. Their last album before this, I'd say, is for fans of Trivium and Soilwork. So imagine combining their sound with bands like Vector and Lamb of God. That's what the last Sylosis album reminds me of. This new one, however, goes in more of a groove metal direction than their last one, with some metalcore influences, some breakdowns. It's more reminiscent of Lamb of God and bands like Killer Be Killed, Byzantine, and Pantera. Very good album. Not really my main style, so probably not something I'll go back to much, but I enjoyed it while it was on, and I think if you like that kind of groovy metal riffs, melodic metalcore, thrash metal, melodic death metal, you should enjoy The New Flesh by Sylosis. And then last one I'm going to talk about in the video today is a pop one. It is Hilary Duff's new album, Luck or Something, the 6th album by this American artist, and it's pop rock with electronic influences. And I'm going to put this one just in my good tier. She's, of course, a very famous actress and singer. And this is actually the first album of hers that I've listened to in full. But I do remember when I was 12 years old, when her second album came out, I liked some of the singles at the time, like as a guilty pleasure, tracks like So Yesterday, Come Clean, and Why Not. And I decided to check this out because I listened to a couple of her new songs out of curiosity ahead of this album, Mature and Roommates, and they were decent pop. And my wife was also a big fan of Hilary Duff when she was a kid, so I decided to check this out. It's a good thing to just listen to together, and it's a good, solid pop album. Not really my style, not something I'll go back to, but there were a couple surprises. One surprise was that the 5th track, Growing Up, used the chorus from the Blink-182 song Damn It, nearly word for word and note for note. But then it had a different verse, so I guess it's like a tribute to the song Damn It from Blink-182. The other surprise was some of the subject matter of the songs and some of the use of explicit lyrics. I didn't expect that from Hilary Duff, being a former child star, as her earlier music, as far as I recall, was very squeaky clean, very kind of like Disney child star pop. But on this album, she dropped some B words. There was at least one F-bomb. So I still kind of see her as a child star, but she's like 38 years old now. So I guess she can say whatever she wants to say, and all the power to her for that. Some of the tracks actually, a couple of the tracks sounded like Taylor Swift songs to me, like not any particular song, but like her voice and the way they were written kind of reminded me of Taylor Swift. So check it out if you liked Hilary Duff's music from the past, if you like Taylor Swift, if you want to hear Hilary Duff do a kind of Blink-182 cover, but like just the chorus and then make her own verses. Yeah, or if you just want to hear how she's getting into more mature subject matter now. If you're interested in that, definitely check out Luck or Something by Hilary Duff. I put it in my good tier. Not my typical style, but it was still interesting and somewhat enjoyable to listen to. And that's it for my first impressions on these 5 albums that came out on February 20th, 2026. What do you think of these albums? Let me know down in the comments. And what else came out recently that you think I might enjoy? Also let me know. And if you like metal, rock, and prog music, you're in the right place. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button so you can stay in the loop when I post new videos. My next video in this series, New Music Picks 2026, is going to be in about a week's time, and I'll talk about new music from Neil Morse Band, A Wilhelm Scream, and Pat Metheny. So stay tuned for that, and peace out.